Take a jade egg to go. You'll know where to find it.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and for some reason today I am trapped in this tiny TV. Now, today I want to talk about Agatha All Along, the newest series in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And a little later I'm going to be joined by Brianna, McLarty, and Tommy Bechtold to get their thoughts. But first, here's my take. When Marvel announced this series, I was kind of confused. There are so many other Marvel characters that I thought would get the Disney Plus treatment first. As I said last week, a James Rhodes-centric Armor Wars series seems like a no-brainer because it would establish Don Cheadle as the new Iron Man. Or maybe Marvel could have invested that time into a Shang-Chi sequel. Even characters like Wonder Man or Ironheart have a bigger comic book profile than Agatha Harkness, who's frankly always been a background character in the comics. That is, until Kathryn Hahn's breakout role in WandaVision.
It's been Agatha all along.
So what I think is interesting here is the presence of an Agatha Harkness series gives us some insight into why Marvel focuses on certain characters. See, Marvel has piles of scripts and treatments dedicated to these different characters. But just because fans want a series or movie like Armor Wars doesn't necessarily mean that that concept is ready to produce, or that they have the right talent lined up to make that show. For a Disney Plus show to get greenlit, it has to have a good team behind it and a strong concept. And this is why I'm very optimistic about Agatha All Along after the first 2 episodes. WandaVision head writer Jack Schaffer is back to helm the series, and after WandaVision, she could have moved on to any other project, but she chose Agatha. And there is a reason she was drawn to this story. I think the MCU works best when it's given time to flourish and get weird. Like, Guardians of the Galaxy was really weird for its time. Even just filling a blockbuster movie with pop music and then, adding in a talking tree and a raccoon, like, that's a really big swing. And for Marvel, making a show about witchcraft, about a second-tier villain, is also very risky. So I want to get into what I liked and didn't like about these first 2 episodes, but first, I want to remind you guys that we are about to go on tour. Our live show is coming to 11 cities where we're going to nerd out together, do trivia, have special guests, and maybe learn a lot about ourselves.
The real riches road was the friends we made along the way.
And we also have a new Discord server where I like to go and rant about my thoughts on everything from Agatha to Steve Urkel. And last plug, I promise, we have lots of Agatha parody merch at our merch store, like Get On Losers, We're Walking the Witch's Road, and It'll Be a Gas. Links for those are below. So here's what I think of the show so far. I think the first episode of Agatha showed more wit and inventiveness than any Marvel show in a long time. For one thing, it looked fantastic, mimicking the look of prestige dramas like Mayor of Easttown. In fact, the fake episode of the show within a show looked better than a lot of Marvel shows like Secret Invasion. Kathryn Hahn is also just great to anchor this series. She can play comedy.
Sisterhood of the Traveling Kegels? No?
But also, she can play around with the tropes of a cop show in a way that make it seem like she's just on the border of parody. And knowing that the people of Westview were faking this for her makes the gag even funnier when we see reveals like the car.
This is not a car.
I'm also psyched to dive into the weird mysticism of the Marvel Universe. Like, Doctor Strange frankly should have done more of this, but really, those movies are standard superhero stuff. Shooting lasers and making shapes with your hands. Now, I like those movies, but they're not really about spells, they're about fight scenes. And we have seen that Agatha and witchcraft is also kind of based on shooting laser beams out of your hands. I'm really hoping that they move away from that and get just weird and mysterious. Like, so far, this show is not afraid to show that magic is mysterious and dangerous and kind of unknowable, whereas most of the MCU has been intent on explaining how magic works.
We harness energy drawn from other dimensions of the multiverse to make magic.
Your ancestors called it magic, and you call it science. Well, I come from a place where they're one and the same thing.
Now, the second episode really pumped the brakes as the show had to establish the stakes and the characters and slowly introduce the Coven. But this is a phenomenal cast, and I love the way that Toto, if we're just going to call him Toto even though we know he's Billy Kaplan, he played great against Agatha. If this kid is going to be an anchor and a leader of the Young Avengers, then it makes me even more excited for that series and movie.
You've just become part of a much larger universe.
I'm 16.
It's also just nice to have a good mystery in these shows again. Now, we know this kid is probably Billy, but we don't know anything about the Witch's Road or who Rio is, and I have no idea how this series will end. Now, I thought the ending of episode 2 really went ahead full steam. It was a lot of fun. The whole sequence with the incantation and the Salem 7 barreling down in the house was haunting and a little bit scary. So, I am cautiously optimistic about this show. I think we could all agree that Marvel shows have dipped a bit in quality as they've started to focus on second-tier characters like Nick Fury and Echo. And nothing against Echo. I think there was a great show in there before the studio cut it to ribbons in post. And I think they did that just so Echo would align better with Daredevil Born Again. And I also have to admit that Agatha feels like a little bit of a holdover. I don't know if Marvel Marvel today would greenlight this show under the new Bob Iger regime, or if Marvel would just stick to making Avengers spin-offs like Hawkeye. And maybe that's a good thing. Like, maybe shows like Agatha and Werewolf by Night will be the last gasp of something weird before the MCU again becomes safe and predictable. Okay, I don't know how this happened, but now I'm somehow locked outside the store. I'm having the weirdest day ever. But I still want to talk to you guys about Agatha All Along's first 2 episodes. So to help me out with that, I have 2 very special guests. We have our very own Brianna McLarty and the great Tommy Bechtold, who is sporting some pretty sweet ScreenCrush merch there, Tommy. I like that, Ross24. So I've told you guys kind of an outline of what I thought about these first 2 episodes. I didn't dive too deep into details like the kid who plays Billy, or the other members of the Coven, or like the actual story, because I wanted to go over that with you guys. So Brianna, you wrote a portion of our first Easter egg video. You're going to write our 3rd video. What did you think of these actual first 2 episodes?
I mean, I love them. I know there's been a lot of talk about like who is the audience for this, like who wanted to see more Agatha. I'm the audience for it. And I will say, on kind of the like niche, smaller communities of the Marvel fandom, specifically of queer women, all the queer women I have seen have loved the shows. And so I think there is an audience. I've been really enjoying it. I think Catherine Hahn is a phenomenal actress. I love that they kept her character very theatrical, but she's also just outright mean. Like, they did not soften her because it's her show. She's so rude. And I just think the whole dynamics, it's weird. It's a weird show, and I love when Marvel is weird. I love when Marvel's just like classic Marvel too, but we've had like so many years of classic Marvel. I love when they get a little weird with it. I think it's like such a cool off project. The Salem 7 are scary. I even liked all the chess pieces because I just thought it was cool to see them like going from place to place gathering witches. I also think that it really helps that Billy and Agatha's dynamic is so good because it's so funny. Like the Hot Topic scene where he's like, I know I have an aesthetic, but why are we here? Literally made me laugh out loud. I think their dynamic's so great that just seeing them together is great for me. And I'm really excited to see where it goes. I really hope they have more horror elements because I do think the Salem 7 was like straight out of American Horror Story season 3. And I hope they stick with that.
Yeah, and honestly, the Salem 7 in the comics, very silly, not scary. You touched on a few things there. I mentioned earlier how Guardians of the Galaxy was very weird at first and how some of the best and boldest Marvel projects just started off as strange things that we never thought we'd actually see on film. Real quick, Brianna, can you tell me where the people can find your socials?
You can find me at Brianna T. McLarty on Instagram and TikTok.
I'm also really worried about what's going on right next to you there. That looks like symmetrical book stacking, which, as we know, no human being could stack books this way.
Yeah, no, it's a shelf. I promise. It's a shelf. There's little shelves right there. There's little shelves all the way through it.
I'm saying I think you might have a ghost. Speaking of spooky things, right?
Or, so, maybe I'm a witch, Ryan. Have you considered that? Maybe I'm a witch.
That would explain why you know so much about witchcraft for the breakdown. Brianna wrote the part in our first, you guys probably seen our first Easter egg video. She wrote and hosted the part that was about the end credits breakdowns. And I remember like watching that and going, I know you researched, but that was an incredible amount of detail that you found in that. So well done. Yeah. And like you said, the dynamic between Billy, we're just going to call him Billy. We know it's Billy Kaplan, and Agatha was great because I love Marvel villains, and I love seeing a project about a Marvel villain, and hopefully her edges don't get any more softened. Tommy, what about you? What was your thoughts on these first 2 episodes? And I want to ask you guys some specific questions about these characters and where we think it's going to go.
You know what? This show is also for me. I loved it. You know, I'm a cisgendered, heterosexual 40-year-old white male, and there was so much for me to dig in. So many amazing performances. It's really a like time capsule of the generational just TV powerhouses. You have Patti LuPone, obviously known for her Broadway work, but like The Mom and Life Goes On Forever. Then you move up a little bit, and you get Deborah Jo Rupp from that 70s show. Then you slide in and you get you've got the woman who plays Gulliver, who is from who's on one of my favorite shows, The Diplomat on Netflix. All these powerhouse actors just coming together. I loved it. I thought the first episode, the satire, the way they were able to kind of tap into that True Detective, Mayor of Easttown tone and just absolutely eviscerate it for all of the ridiculous ways that the people interact with each other in the face of like horrific murders, where they're all kind of flirting with each other weirdly, even if there's no sexual tension between them. They're still saying like, they're still all kind of like lightly razzing each other. And it's like, there's a dead teenager or in this case, a dead woman in her mid-20s, feet away from them. But I gotta say, yeah, I mean, I thought the first episode, I could have, I was delighted that we got to see all of the people from WandaVision. I thought it perfectly tethered the two shows together. It definitely made this feel like a sequel to WandaVision rather than just a pure Agatha spinoff. I completely agree with Brianna. They did not soften Agatha at all. In fact, they made her just, she's just brutal to Billy, and or I prefer to call him Teen, as she does. And I will now refer to my nephews exclusively as teens and not by their names as a way to assert my own dominance. But yeah, 2 Tommy thumbs up for me. I had a great time watching the show. I cannot wait for next week.
Yeah, and like last week I got on the channel, I talked about, like I mentioned this earlier, Armor Wars. Like, how do you not put on Armor Wars? How do you prioritize projects like Agatha? But like I said, it definitely shows that there are just certain things that click for a show. You get the right script, you get the right showrunner, and so far I think that's where we're going. And Tommy, I just want to also flag, you didn't mention Sashir Zameda, who I knew like back in her UCB days. She is just awesome.
And was an all-timer. All-timer, I think she was fabulous on SNL and had a great shortened run because she kind of left to do her own thing. And it's like, just to see her now emerge in projects like this, she was one of my favorites on SNL. She killed me when she would do, especially acting as a like proxy talk show host. She was always able to do the faux talk show host, the characters so well. So yeah, it's great to see her as well in the show. Thank you. And Aubrey Plaza from Parks and Rec. Obviously,
obviously. I mean, that's the thing too. We have a Parks and Rec reunion because Catherine Hahn, was in the season with the mayoral race.
Yes.
Amy Poehler was at the premiere, and they all took a picture together. I thought that was so cute.
And Shasir Zameda has moves that we haven't even seen yet in this show. Like, she can do like literally anything. Tommy, what are your socials, real quick, before we move on to theories about this show?
You can sure, absolutely. Thank you. You can find me at Tommy Bechtold on Instagram and whatever we're calling X for now. And then find me at Tommy Bechtold on all socials, really.
So I will say though, before I get into like theories about where we think this show, because everything about the MCU is about, hey, what's going on next and what is this setting up? And I think I'm starting to see they are definitely laying the groundwork for some Midnight Suns, and I think this show might even put the pressure on Blade, which I want to ask you guys about in a second. I do want to address, though, I didn't think this was necessarily a perfect 1-2 punch. I thought it was a great first episode, like you said, Tommy. And by the way, when you rewatch her interactions at the crime scene and realize she's talking to Herb over his hedge and not over, go back, if you haven't yet, people watching the video, rewatch those scenes. It's hilarious. Like, it really is it plays like way better the second time. I do think that second episode, though, was a lot of like, okay, let's stop. Okay, let's meet this person. Okay, let's explain this. I think it was okay because it was only like 3.5 people. I count Deborah Jo Rupp as a half person because it was like, hey, you're here. Come on, let's go. It reminded me a little bit of The Eternals. And The Eternals, I think, is a movie that worked really well right up until Fastos. That's the point where I was like, okay, so this is very much like the Blues Brothers getting the band back together, except in the Blues Brothers, we had big splashy dance numbers. And in Eternals, it was like a quick flashback of information we should have already known. So I didn't really like the structure of that. This one, I think it was okay. I would have liked to have seen the witches do more and say less in their introductions. Brianna, did you think that this was like a little rushed the way they brought them in? Or would you like to have gotten more? Or do you think they're just saving all the good stuff for the future episodes?
I think they're definitely saving the good stuff. I personally didn't mind I didn't mind the rollout of the witches purely because Agatha herself described it, within a 3-mile radius, there is at least witchy enough people. So it did, like, to me, fit in with the story of like, okay, I just have to go find some people that are like witchy enough that I can get onto this road. And she's viewing it, because I do feel like the show is pretty heavily from Agatha's perspective. She's viewing it as like checklist. I just have to go open the road. So I didn't mind it because I do think it's like I think it works with the character of Agatha and how she's viewing it. And I think we're going to see them come into their own. And again, for me, just having it grounded by her and Billy Kaplan's relationship just made it funny. Like, the whole time I was viewing it almost more as a window into them and rounding everyone up than I was about necessarily, I guess, super establishing all the new witches that are coming in. I think we actually got that more in the song when it didn't work immediately and they will start fighting.
Oh, but that was such a good sequence too. Like, I mean, these are Patty Love Home, Catherine Hahn. Like Catherine Hahn sang Agatha all along. She was a star of stage before she broke into TV. Tommy, same question to you. Which, by the way, it's really the scene in Step Brothers where she can't sing is like a double irony thing.
Yes.
It's so flat. I didn't even know. You don't even look good while you're singing.
So Tommy, what about you? Was there anything in this? For me, the first episode totally hit, no notes. Second episode, I just kind of felt a little bit of like, okay, so hopefully this is all set up for 3. What about you? Any drawbacks to these first couple episodes?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely harkened to the Rick and Morty episode of we're putting a team together. You son of a bitch, I'm in. I definitely, I felt like everybody, it was kind of like you said, there was a lot of talking, a lot of everybody getting their digs in on each other about like, clearly these women don't like each other from, there's hundreds of year-old feuds with each of these women. And then they all just showed up with no, like they were like, yeah, but at the end of the day, we're all still showing up for this because it's like our lives are so mundane. And that, I thought the person that summed that up the most was Deborah Jo Rupp, where it's like, yeah, we all know those people or have been those people that are like, I have been detached from society for so long. I will literally do anything. The first social invite that I get, I will get no matter how uncomfortable it makes me. And I thought that was like super relatable. But yeah, to go back to your point and to answer your question instead of just, offering my brilliant social insights.
I love that.
I definitely thought that it was certainly like one of those, like, we got to get through. we're going to get this. We're going to get the team together completely in episode 2 so we can start moving in episode 3. I wouldn't say it was the most action story forward moving episode, but I still plenty of moments to enjoy. And I mean, compared to some other things that we've, covered and watched recently, I felt that it still moved or is operating at a superior clip. So yeah, it was definitely not like, it didn't have a ton of room to breathe, but it made the most of those quick breaths that it could take.
Well, the theory I threw out, speaking of Deborah Jo Rupp in our first in our Easter egg video, the first episodes 1 and 2, on the channel right now, ScreenCrush, click the link below. That she has no powers, that the heart was just a misdirection where Agatha, the real Earth witch she needed was Rio, and she didn't want her because they, have a past together and stuff.
Yeah.
But probably, I think they may have even slipped up and said that they had dated or they were together or something. So I love the idea that Deborah Jo Rupp is up for anything. And of course, you're going to have, like, if you're going to bring back any cast member as a regular cast member from WandaVision, it's going to be Kitty. The woman's amazing. Yeah. I love the idea that she's going to be sucked into this and have no powers.
Yes.
I really hope that's where they're going with it and that her big garden was a misdirect. So that's like my favorite pet theory. I'm going to get into theories now before we talk about what this show is going to lead into in Midnight Suns. Brianna, what's your big theory about this show so far?
I think my biggest theory, I really, really think Wanda is going to make a cameo appearance in the last episode. I think I really do, because the whole thing, like with the whole, she's sincerely dead. Is she? Like, that's so, I was like, okay, yeah, she's kind of come back. Plus, I honestly think some of the question Elizabeth Olsen recently got, being like, would you come back? Kind of seems like planted to me, that just happened to show up. So I would be surprised. I do think Miss Hart is going to have powers. I think she's actually going to be really powerful. And the part of that's the garden. But the other reason is in WandaVision, she's one of the very few people other than Agatha that actually on her own slightly breaks out of the hex. She has the whole moment in the first episode where she's like, please stop, please stop, please stop. No one else does that. We see Wanda, we see Vision at one point help somebody break out of it. But other than Agatha, she's the only person that does it on her own. And she does it in like the first episode when like theoretically like the hex was the strongest. That was where we saw like much degrading of the hex. So I think she's going to end up being really powerful. I still think Rio is the witch they need, but I wouldn't be surprised if she has a bigger power to play. And I kind of want that for her because she's kind of cute. I just want her to have her little like witchy moment. I think she'd be really cute with it. So I think that's my big theory right now.
And I'll say too, I have a really soft spot in my heart for Deborah Jo Rupp. I'm a big like that 70s show fan. I think Topher Grace is one of us. He's awesome. But Deborah Jo Rupp is, I think she was the first celebrity to like one of my tweets. It was like because like WandaVision, we did good during Mandalorian. WandaVision was like our first, like, oh my God, like this is real. Like this channel is really, people like to watch us. And it was COVID. So, like it was the first I felt like I was connecting to people through the screen. And she liked one of my tweets and I was like, she's amazing in the show. And I was like,
yeah,
the choirs came down. So then Mark Hamill did it. And I was like, Deborah who? So Tommy, what about you? What's your big theory? I was like, I'll never wash my Twitter again.
Yes.
Mark Hamill liked one of my tweets. So, and I'm not name dropping. I'm not pals with any of these people. I'm massive fans and I have to catch their attention. Tommy, what about you? What's your theory, your hot theory coming into the first couple of episodes?
I love Brianna's theory that Scarlet Witch will be making an appearance. I kind of similarly, I agree. I didn't have it quite as articulately put. I'm more inclined to believe that because it's they made it so obvious that the heart, in my opinion, was Rio Vidal. Like it's a black heart on the paper. She says she has a black heart in the first episode. It's like, all right, so clearly Agatha is purposefully sidelining Rio Vidal from the team because they're in this this centuries long feud as most witches are with Agatha. We come to find. I think my biggest theory is that I'm wondering if we are going to get some Sorcerer Supreme cameos as we get more into the magic. I mean,
Wong's up for anything.
But I think maybe we get the Cabbage Patch. We might get the Benedict Cumberbatch cameo.
All right.
They might get the big swing, or definitely Mordo would be a lot of fun. But he's too busy playing a government or a soldier in Venom. Last Dance, but as we know, he is going to be a Mordo variant, as I've talked about on this very channel, and we'll reiterate, much like my famous Everett K. Ross's Doctor Doom theory. Mordo is in Venom will be my theory that I will once again get skewered by the internet for. But I think we're going to get a Benedict Cumberbatch cameo. I just do. I just have a feeling.
So that's all very interesting. My big theory, apart from this kid's Billy Kaplan, don't tell anyone, and everything else I've mentioned is I mentioned earlier, I was talking about the MCU and how they're careful about the projects they'll greenlight. They're not just going to greenlight something because, we need a movie for this or we need a movie for that. They have, if you read the book, The Reign of Marvel Studios, it says in there, like they have stacks and stacks of scripts and treatments. And then like they'll bring directors in to pick sometimes, or at least they used to, maybe it's more structured now. Which is why I'm looking at things like Wonder Man, and I'm so optimistic about that because you have great people attached to it. Vision Quest with Terry Matalas, I'm very excited about that. But they still tend to pick things that are going to set up other things. So Vision Quest, for example, right? That's a show they were already working on when they brought on this great showrunner, Terry Matalas, who did Picard Season 3 and other things like that. That, to me, says a Vision Quest is something that is important to the story they're telling. They wanted White Vision back. It's a sequel to WandaVision. Maybe he's going to set up Young Avengers. So that aside, I also think that the reason they approved Agatha is because it's there to set something up. We have thrown out many theories on this channel about the Midnight Suns, which is this team of kind of like, I don't want to say evil, but like the more mystical side of Marvel, like the Triad and the Venture Brothers that, we've said Blade, Black Knight, I guess, Ghost Rider, Agatha, Werewolf by Night, Man-Thing. There's all these like weird horror characters that emerged from Marvel in the 70s. I do think this show is here to set that up. I think they're going on the witch's road. I think they're going to see some weird stuff and they're going to meet some weird characters. And I think they're going to be a part of this. So my big prediction is on the witch's road, Man-Thing. I think they're going to tie into Werewolf by Night. So long story short, I think this is going to directly set up Midnight Suns. And I think Blade is also supposed to set up Midnight Suns, but they're just dragging their feet on it. What do you guys think? Are we going to see some hot setup that doesn't even involve like the movie characters? What would you like to see out of this, Brianna?
I think it is definitely a setup for Midnight Suns. I'm so excited about that because I love horror. I mean, I have a little Freddy Krueger behind me. So I really hope it is. Werewolf by Night is one of my favorite projects. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Man-Thing, specifically like because of how he is in the comic and like some of the vortex-y like realm between world stuff. I also think we could see Ghost Rider just because I just want to see Ghost Rider. I want them to bring in Ghost Rider. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is a big setup for Blade. At least I hope it is. I really want that movie to get green. Like, I just want that movie. I want it so bad.
$40 million budget, low end, like just do it. I'll write it for you, please.
Yeah, give me a Grindhouse Blade. I will be sad. I will.
Why is Robert Rodriguez not making Blade?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Kevin,
Like,
why is Robert Rodriguez not making Blade? Please make
adding
that happen.
you.
That's
We're
a great
adding
idea.
you.
He hasn't
but
returned my
no.
calls in a long time.
Mm.
I love that. God, that would make so much sense. And again, like it's one of those things that you look at it and go, well, why hasn't Blade happened? Well, they haven't had the right script. They haven't had the right project. Like that to me, again, speaks to my optimism for the quality that we're going to see in Agatha. Tommy, what about you? What do you think we're going to be getting set up here? And, speaking of Ghost Rider, do you think they're waiting on Nick Cage to reprise his role in Secret Wars, or, what's going on with that?
I mean, Nicolas Cage is a man that is willing to work, but boy, oh boy, is his dance card full right now. They're in production on Spider-Man Noir. They're casting currently, I can tell you. And then he's playing John Madden in a John Madden biopic. So I'm like, they might have to wait a long time for Nicolas Cage to be ready, but we know that he never stops working so he can pay off his 5 private islands. But I also feel like the Ghost Rider character is like, who's the other Ghost Rider? Robbie Reyes?
Reyes, who was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and was very good in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, I wouldn't
That
mind
was some of the best seasons of that show. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind getting maybe that iteration of Ghost Rider in the Midnight Suns rather than Johnny Blaze. I just think I feel like Nicolas Cage in those movies are the more like bastard Fox Marvel movies, even though I enjoy them.
Right.
I enjoy them very much, but it's more because I just enjoy Nicolas Cage and whatever he does. So I wouldn't mind actually giving Ghost Rider a fresh start here, and having him appear on the Witch's Road would be an amazing introduction for the character, would it not?
It would be. It would be. I'm going to throw this out there though when it comes to Ghost Rider. Robbie Reyes, great character. Loved him in Hickman Avengers. They did some really cool stuff with the character in that. You don't want to do Johnny Blaze? Fine. I would do Daniel Ketch. Because I just think Ghost Rider on a motorcycle is much cooler than Ghost Rider in a muscle car. Yeah. There's just something about, like, I know it came out of like Evel Knievel and the stunt bike aesthetic from the 70s and all that, but man, a freaking motorcycle with flaming wheels and it's just such a powerful image because you can see the character. Whereas, when if somebody's in a car, it's like Christine.
Oh, yeah.
It's the car that's scary, not the person.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I would love to see that. And I haven't really been jazzed about a Marvel show in a while. I was really optimistic about Echo, and then all this stuff came out about it was 6 episodes. They shot 6 episodes, and then Marvel cut it down to 5, and then a leaker released like what I think is a pretty accurate synopsis of what those episodes originally were. And it was a much better show. However, I think it probably really didn't go along with the new direction for Daredevil Born Again. So as part of Marvel scaling everything back, that was a casualty. But then this show doesn't have to worry about that. Like this show is not connected as far as we know to anything that's coming out right now. So that makes me, again, very optimistic about it. So we got to wrap up soon, but I just want to get final thoughts from you guys on what do you think, the show, optimism, yay, nay, like where are we at? What else you want to say about it?
Well, I will say, my thing is I'm optimistic that the show is going to be great. I think it's going to be amazing, but I would not be surprised if we have, if a lot of the show is kind of these witches dealing with their, like, how their lives have all gotten so screwed up, right? Like we kind of establish Patti LuPone is destitute. Sashir Zameda's character is, about to face a bunch of she's facing a ton of fraud charges and has lost her magic as well. And then we have Gulliver got fired from being a police officer and is now working security at the mall. So this is, MT, my collaborator on Guardians of the Galaxy, described it as they're all going to go on their Wizard of Oz quest to get their heart, their courage, and their brain. But basically to get their mojo back. I wouldn't be surprised if, we already have this loaded cast. If it's not, if we don't meet a ton of new characters coming out. But I do think that those surprises that we predicted earlier, at least 1 or 2 of them could come through in the later episodes. But I kind of predict that we're going to get a lot more of the how did each one of these witches end up around each other for this adventure at this point in their lives? So perfectly put together for a coven of misfits, which is like any gang of misfits, it's going to have my heart completely.
Yeah, and you're right. It is very Wizard of Oz coded. We talked about that in our breakdown video. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm still locked outside the store, but Brianna, give me your last thoughts.
I totally agree with Tommy. I think that a lot of it will be centered on them. I do think we might get cameos later, but I think that fits with WandaVision. WandaVision was a cool show. It had a lot of cool elements. At the core, that show is about grief and trauma. And it's part of what made the show so good. So I really hope we get that kind of human element in Agatha, and I think we will.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like if she and Rio are ex-lovers, then maybe it is about heartache, which is, not just the grief of losing somebody because they died, but the grief of losing someone who is still alive because of mistakes you made in the past. So again, Brianna, Tommy, thank you guys so much. You can find their social links below. And I remain locked outside. And speaking of being outside, that reminds me, don't forget, we are going on tour. ScreenCrush has an 11 city show tour. You can find links for that down in the comments. We have so much fun stuff for you guys planned. Like I said earlier, we were trapped inside for COVID for so long. It's our chance to finally get to meet you face to face and interact with actual human. Doug, I know, I can see you. Doug's in the window of the store right now, and he's waving at me. Just unlock the door. Okay, he'll let me in soon. But anyways, if you guys have any suggestions for how the heck I can get back in the store, or let me know your thoughts about Agatha 1 and 2 down in the comments below, or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Eric. Just unlock the door. Just unlock the door.